All right, it is 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Savoy ISD Board of Trustees to order. At this time, we do have a quorum. This time, if you would remove your hats, we'll say a word of prayer. Our precious Heavenly Father, thank you today, Lord, for letting us be here to take care of the business of this school. Lord, we pray that you would move your Holy Spirit into us and lead, guide, and direct us in which way you want us to go. Lord, we pray that you just be with the staff, the students, and this administration, that you guide them in the ways that we need to go to make this school great. All these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. At this time, we will stand and say pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor
Honor to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
At this time, we will canvass the votes for the May 6th election. Actually, this is 3-year terms for these two. Daryl Bear Reed had 76 votes. Joe Gilbert had 60. They both have 1 seat. Then there was a 2-year unexpired term that was the winner of it gets the seat. Michael D. Bomer got 62. Roger. Okay. Had 6, and Kenneth Webb had 31. So that will, and I would like to thank Ken for his service. And like I said, it was a pleasure serving with you, friend.
It was my honor.
So we will switch the tables now, and we will go on the next thing that we. Oh, I need a motion to accept those.
Accept the voting totals before trustees
Yeah.
as presented.
I'll make a motion that we accept the ballot as read.
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
Okay. Joe made a motion to accept the canvassing of the votes as presented. And Brian seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 4, none opposed. All right, the next thing is we will swear in the board members. Did you get hers?
I think he said 6.
Okay. Yeah, I counted Barbara.
But we didn't count them.
I didn't count them.
Oh, you're first. You will need to read this for me. Raise your right hand, read it aloud, and then all the way to the bottom, please.
I, Michael Bomer, do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promise any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure any appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God. Title of position to which elected appointed Savoy ISD Board Trustee.
I need you to read this one.
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, I, Michael Bomer, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Savoy ISD Board Trustee of the state of Texas and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
Please sign here and here. Stay afterwards so we can notarize.
Oh, sorry. I don't think.
Yes, sir, you do.
Huh?
This one.
No.
Raise your right hand and read that, please.
Raise my right hand and read that. Won't be hard to do. Right hand. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, I, William J. Gilbert, do solemnly swear or affirm that I am faithfully execute the duties of the office as the board trustee of the state of Texas and will do to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God.
Sign this one and this one. Stay afterwards to notarize.
Where is this in here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. You can read this one.
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, I, Darrell Reed, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of office of Savoy ISD Board Trustee of the state of Texas and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
Cheers.
I welcome new board members aboard. Welcome aboard. We've got a lot of work to do, so roll up your sleeves and get ready. First thing we're gonna do tonight, or this next thing that we do, is nomination and election of the board of trustees officers. The first one will be secretary. I hear a nomination for secretary.
I nominate Michael Bowman, secretary.
I second it.
You want to see all this instead, Barbara? You good? Okay.
Nominations and nominations, please.
Trying to get, not get hit by a ball.
I make a motion that nomination cease.
Okay,
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bear. All those in favor? Okay. Mike, congratulations. dude.
New guy gets to do
Okay, the next one is vice president.
nominate Barbara.
I'll second that.
Make a motion to close nominations.
I'll second that.
Motion made to and seconded by Joe, made by Barrett to close the nominations. Congratulations, Barbara. Oh, all those in favor. Now, congratulations, Barbara.
You got it.
President.
All right.
I move nominate Sandy for president, no offense, Terry. She expressed interest in I'm gonna nominate her.
Did you hear that, Barbara?
Do I hear a second?
No, it was not.
Sandy by Brian nominated for president.
Do I hear a second?
I nominate. Do we have another nomination?
I think
Well,
we're
need
waiting
to-
for a
if
second
there's-
right
We're
now.
waiting for a second. If there's not,
No, she can have another nomination and then nominate.
Okay. does she want to make a
Do you
nomination?
want a nomination, Barbara?
I nominate Terry as president.
Do I hear a second on that one?
I'll second it.
And you got a second from Joe?
Okay.
Do I hear a second from Sandy? I'll second it so you can have, we can have a vote. All those in favor of Sandy? One, two. Okay. All those in favor of Terry? Three, Barbara? She voted four. Thank y'all for that. Appreciate it. With that, we will close that item.
Mary, I need to get the names, who nominated, who made the motion for secretary?
Joe and Sandy. And then for Barbara, it was Sandy and me. Okay,
The motion was made by you and seconded.
no, it's seconded, it was made by Sandy, seconded by me. For Barbara.
President,
And then on President Sandy, it was Brian, and then I seconded it for. And then Barbara put me and Joe seconded it. And. Okay. Okay. All right, we'll move on. Student and teacher standard of the month. The teacher of the year.
And he's up.
We'll start with the student of the month. We've got a pre-K student here today. Miss Faith Hall, not to be confused with Faith Hill, right? I always have to think about it before I say her name because she does not like it at all. So I've gotten it right I think, every time. She was nominated by Miss Allen, who's here and who's here as well. Realize that. You want to come on up? Faith? Miss Allen had some phenomenal things to say about it. You want to help share some things about Faith?
Faith is always willing to step up and give a helping hand to any student in the classroom. If they need a friend to play with, Faith is always willing to be that person to play with them, make sure they're not alone. She's always helpful. She wanted to meet, told Miss Cunningham to call her the troublemaker, but she wanted to be my reminder to help me remember things, which I do need help with a lot, so it was a very helpful title. She's always kind and polite to all of her teachers, all adults in the school, students. She's always willing to just step in and do what needs to be done in the classroom.
School for all awesome kiddo in pre-K, right, Faith? Yeah, congratulations. You're
All right.
I think.
Yeah. Yes. Good job, good job.
Our teacher of the month is Miss Fannin, as you're gonna see in the presentation, here in just a second. We had an awesome fifth grade camp, Joe. They're gonna share more about that, but obviously in anything that you do, there has to be a ringleader in that. About this time last year, Miss Fannin and I got together and we identified Camp Joe. We came to you and y'all blessed it. And it was an amazing experience. Three-day experience that we had. And gosh, the countless hours that goes into the fundraising, and gosh, meetings and taking time away from her family to be there for 3 days. definitely felt like, she was well deserving of the Teacher of the Month.
Good job, great job.
Ms. Weeds. Is next. So under our Savoy standard, I'm gonna go ahead and give our Teacher of the Year. You come on up. She was nominated by one of her colleagues, and voted on and unanimously was our selection for the Savoy Elementary for the Region 10 Teacher of the Year. I think that speaks enough right there that her peers think that much of her to put her in this seat. It's the second year that I've been here that we've had the Region 10 Teacher of the Year, and she is by far well deserving of this award for sure. To be not only Teacher of the Month, but also Teacher of the Year for Savoy Elementary. So congratulations. She's also one of our Reading Academy graduates.
Congratulations.
That's the Savoy standard. But we do have 5 teachers that are completing that right now. I think she's completely done, right? Or are you waiting on something graded?
Yeah, I'm waiting on
Waiting on a graded paper.
Great.
Almost over the hump on Reading Academy, which is that 11-month. For those who don't know, K through 3 teachers have to go through an 11-month, 60-hour PD. It was mandated 3 years ago, and our staff has slowly been going through it, but we have 5 in it right now. So that's all I got. Oh, you did want me to share. I think Ms. Maynard, is she out there? Right, Savoy standard for the high school was Ms. Maynard, our nurse, and she shares both campuses. She splits time, spends the majority of her time with us. But she, oh gosh, by far, even through the COVID time, that lady is not afraid of absolutely anything. No matter what color it is, how gooey it is, she will do whatever it takes to make us successful at Savoy Elementary. I know that. So he chose her as the Savoy standard, which is definitely well deserved as well.
And teacher and students and everything are over there at their banquet tonight, so that's why they're not here. So they're
High school was Mason Merriman, and Teacher of the Year over there was Miss.
Yes.
Miss Martin.
All right. So with that, we'll close that item. Next item is a presentation of Camp Joke by Danielle Fanning.
Is it all right if I stand down here?
And where you
That way
need it,
everybody can see.
tell me what-
I don't think it.
it's ready to go.
Abby, you trying to leave? Yes. I got a couple helpers here with me too. They're gonna share some stuff in a little bit. So for those of you that weren't here back in July, I think we came, Mr. Henderson and I presented to the board an idea that I had been itching to do, was to take our kids to a science camp for 5th grade right before we take our science star. And it was a big risk. It was something that hadn't been done here. We didn't do any overnight trips, and the board was so supportive and unanimously were just like, yes, let's do this. What do we got to do? And it was so nice to have y'all support from day one to get this going. We fundraised all year from the day after I got done talking to you guys. The kids and I hit the ground running. We raised roughly $8,000. And that covered camp for 3 days for 26 kids. 26 kids. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us and the nurse. We did activities all day, every day. We walked, according to our watches, a little over 22 miles in 3 days. I'm sure the kids did a lot more than that because they were playing kickball and running a lot more than we were. But we had a great time. It was awesome from the academic standpoint to just the social standpoint for the kids to get to have that camaraderie. We had kids that didn't know how to put a sheet on their bed, or where do I put my toothbrush at camp? We'd never been to a camp, so it was a lot of life skills that they gained too in the process. And I had kids that were nervous about going. They said, I don't know if I'm gonna be ready for this. And I said, well, here's the deal. If you go to camp and you decide you don't like it, I'll give you a Snickers bar when we get back. But if you have a good time, you owe me a Snickers bar. Well, this one kid showed up the day after we got back with 2 Snickers bars and she said, you win. So I feel like we had a good time. I just wanted to kind of present this to y'all, let y'all see some video pictures of the 3 days we were there, and then let these 2 kids, y'all want to talk before the video or after? After. They're so nervous. They're so nervous. All right,
Ready?
ready, sir. So as you can see, we had a great time. We had so much fun. The kids, I hope, learned and gained so much hands-on science in 3 days. And we went to camp Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We came back to school like normal on Thursday and they took their science star on Friday. So I hope when we get our results in August that this is a return on dividends times a million and that we get to continue doing this tradition. I know the younger grades, I sent that video to them and a lot of the teachers said my kids are already, can't wait till they're in 5th grade to get this opportunity too. So, Michael? What was your favorite part about it?
My favorite part about camp was whenever we were able to get in the lake and try to find animals in the lake.
Do you remember anything we found when we were out?
There was a turtle shell, a dragonfly nest, a mud crab.
Was there tadpole?
There
There was a little one, yeah. That was fun. Yeah. Yeah, there was something else. There's some other little creature. They put on real waders and waded out into the Texoma and took nets and she said, go see what you can catch and we'll identify it and talk about it. And they caught all kinds of stuff. It was awesome. Abby, what was your favorite part?
My favorite part is when we were able to get these little containers and really catch insects.
Oh, yeah.
Miss Brandon caught a blackfoot and I caught a jumping spider, daddy long legs, mayfly, and baby, 2 baby guys.
We did. They couldn't believe I caught that black widow. They said, how'd you do that? I said, I told her nicely to get in the cup. I thought that was cool. It was, yeah, Mr. Lawson helped. We did have a parent that did come with us as a male chaperone, and Mr. Joe David Lawson. And he was fantastic. The kids all did great with him, and I think we all had a great time having him on board with us too. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity and the trust that y'all gave to us to let us have this opportunity and to run with it and, you know, give back to the kids and let them get out of the classroom and go learn on hands-on. Would you say it was fun? Yeah, that was the best one. Did you have a good time? Yeah.
I had a really good time, and I really hope other grades are able to go on that trip as well, because I really appreciate it.
Would you go back?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
It was awesome.
All right, thank you.
Guys.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. All right, we've got, Presentation by Government Capital by Wade Thompson.
Thank you for coming.
All right, do we have it on the screen?
Mhm, I got it right here.
Sorry, thank you.
That's what you need, right? That's what you want. Take over.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Valley, have it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
No, I
you're
just
getting
pulled
done
mine around. What do you need to do?
I'm just gonna scroll down a little bit, but
Where do you want to go?
I'm just keep it right there right now, it's fine. Okay, thank you all, for letting me comment. I'm not the same guy y'all probably seen before with Wade Thompson, David Baltus, with my state warrants with Government Capital. We work, as financial advisor for our school districts. Actually grew up pretty close to Mr. Morris, where he's from too. So I'm from a small town, and I always say that just to say that I understand what makes them unique and also some of the challenges that they have, but also how we're able to use that to our advantage for certain things. And a lot of that has to do with facilities and the right way to be good steward of taxpayer dollars. So what we're gonna talk about tonight, feel free to interrupt me as I go through it, but it's pretty surface level stuff just to give you a perspective of what we're looking at. In regards to what a bond election it would be for a school, I mean, I'm not gonna get into why schools call bonds. I'm sure y'all heard a lot about the Bells bond that passed. But this is really just, there's a reason for maybe looking at a bond right now, and that has to do with your tax rate setting, that y'all are gonna be setting this coming August for your current outstanding bonds. There's one payment left that you have to set a tax rate for, which will be paid off in 2024. And what a lot of school districts do is when they're looking at that tax or that bond falling off, they may just issue one to keep the tax rate about the same or increase it or decrease, depending on what the needs of the district is. So that's really what you're trying to time right, because in August, you would set your last tax rate setting for your outstanding bond. And that would give you two opportunities to potentially call a bond if y'all decided to do so, which would be November of this year or May of next year. And you do that just so that how that cycle works is if a bond were to pass, you would be able to sell that bond and then set a tax rate for whatever amount in that next August, a year out. So you're not having that dip down or not. So it's really what's being considered, at least in this part. What I have here is what really it's a small tax rate increase and a small tax rate decrease on two options with 3.4 million and 6,100,000. You know, I know that this is, we haven't heard any direction of what the board may be considering. So this is using a pretty, or actually not, a very conservative interest rate estimate right now, because when you sell the bond, it has to pass first, and you're trying to make projections out. This is at a 5% interest rate over 30 years. Right now, current interest rates for those types of bonds are at 4.15%, or yeah, 4.15. So you can see that's a pretty big gap or margin between what we're estimating right here. But you know, as you would get close to calling a bond election, we would narrow that down, but still be conservative in our estimates moving forward. So what you can see here, as you go through kind of left to right, you have those two amounts up there over 30 years. You have your annual debt service payment and total payback schedule. But this is really what everybody kind of wants to talk about for, is that this is before the homestead exemption. So it's not including any of the homestead exemptions you receive. But you can see what that would mean to an annual tax effect to the individual for an annual tax amount that would increase their taxes on, or this one would actually decrease it, and this one would increase it. And I'll get a little bit into how that's structured here in a minute on the next couple slides. So any questions on this page at all?
Yeah, well, we're figuring it out on 30, not 20.
I just went on the far back end. We can always, you're correct on term. You can go down to as short as you want, but it's kind of the same determination as the board. When you look at those options, we would provide them, of course. Is it something that's going to last 20 years for sure? Or, you know, is it going to live the life of that term bond? So there are boards that come around and say, you know, we don't want to do a 30, we'll do a 20, we'll do a 15, we'll do something even less than that, depending on what the project is. So the interest rate you're looking at maybe for a 20-year, I would say, is about a 3.75. It's a decent estimate for current rates. I would say we'll see what happens over the next couple of months as that kind of moves on. But, you can pick any term you like. I just kind of picked the far end. But what a lot of schools will do is they'll put it on 30 years, but they'll more often than not have the ability to pay it off early. In 25 years or so, it usually kind of how it gets set up because of growth and additional value that comes into the district, which adds tax revenues to be able to pay it off early. So, yeah, any other additional questions? Down here, this is just a quick little look at what's around you, in terms of school districts that have set tax rates. It's just to use as a comparison. So you have Savoy right here, a little bit towards the bottom at 94.29 cents of M&O tax rate. And when you look at that, I noticed a few things, is that anybody that's either at 85 or anybody that's at 94 or above has done what's called voter approved tax rate election. So y'all have some additional M&O pennies, and that was a good thing that y'all did back then because y'all have a certain amount of state funding that's very helpful for the district, and y'all maxed out the possible you could get from the state providing funding rather than just completely being local taxes. And so it's a good thing that y'all do that to be able to set your budgets and use that money accordingly. It's not just all going to be local tax-based dollars for your maintenance and operation budget. But it relates to INS tax rate, interest and sinking bond tax rate. You can see that y'all are currently at 12 cents, almost to 13 cents of revenue. That's all locally sourced revenue to pay down your debt on outstanding bonds. There's no state help that y'all are eligible for. But it does provide at least a little bit of perspective of who's passed bonds here and who hasn't. Campbell has never passed a bond. But the highest tax rate being on the INS side is Union Hill down bottom, St. Joe. And I'm sure Ellis is probably going to go up to some one that's recently passed too. I don't know what's that, how exactly they structured it. So yeah, just to give it, and we can pick any number of area schools, or schools of similar size to y'all or anything of that nature. Should you want to see that information too. Anything on that?
You said, who is that at the top that's got the highest INS?
Union Hill. Yes, sir. They're at $1.32 total, so they have a higher M&O tax rate and a higher INS tax rate. And y'all are at a total tax rate of $1.07. So
keeping it where it is right now, you said we'd be eligible for roughly $3 million, a little more, is that right?
I would imagine since we got some new preliminary values that changed that calculation, so we received that information today. It's Fannin County, right? Yeah, so we received that information today, and we would need to go back and rerun them. We just need a little more time to take that taxable value, figure out what to produce. But this is a little step, but we'll update it. It's not anything crazy. I mean, the tax rate's still the tax rate, any amount can still be done on our estimates, but here's how I have it structured, and this, I may just need to zoom in a little bit if I can. So I have your total assessed valuation. You can kind of see what's happening here is that last year, y'all were at a taxable value of 187 million. In 2023, this new preliminary values that have just come out, y'all jumped up actually to 247 million. So we made a little conservative estimate, brought that down a little bit, tax revenue, but that's a substantial increase year over year. I understand that for sure. But you set a tax rate based upon those values to pay down these current bonds. You have your last payment is about to be paid off for the 2023 maturity of your last bond, and then the last payment will be next year for that bond in 2024. So the idea behind this is that you would either have an election in November or May of next year to set up this type of payment structure here. This is just a 30-year, we'll definitely look at other terms to consider as well. But in this example, this is for, was it 6.1 million? It's an increase so far of 4 cents compared to what you're currently setting as your tax rate. And it would move it up to, I'm doing it compared to what it would be next year. Because of that increase in value, your tax rate would go from 12 roughly is where it is now, almost 13 to 10.5. So I'm comparing it to that. And if you look at it, is that I would still say, we're being very conservative in our estimate that this is gonna be a 4-cent tax increase. More likely, and that's, that's our design and goal is to do that. So if you go to your voters and tell them what the tax rate increase is gonna be, you wanna make sure that you're not, you're not over promising, you're telling them that we're doing our due diligence and making sure that, because the bonds that I'm doing right now are just recently passed, we're gonna come in under what we actually told the public, not by a wide margin or anything, but that's the goal, is to always make sure that the tax rate increase that they feel is actually gonna be less, if you can do it that way. You never wanna be over what you ask them to vote on by any means. So total tax rate of this bond would be roughly 15 cents. And the other thing to notice over here is on this, and I'm gonna zoom in some more, is this value, we don't really, we stopped it from growing after 2028, and that's not feasible. We understand that. So we can be as aggressive or as conservative as you want in regards to what your tax base would potentially grow at. Y'all are growing at a little bit more of a steadier clip right now. These first couple of years are 5% growth, and then it stops and it goes to 2% for one more year and then level it off. So still very conservative, because as you can see, even for y'all have doubled in value in the last 6 years, I would say. So you can see, I don't even have you double. I have you going from 250 to 300. So if y'all were to double again, you would, what that means is that you're now producing double the amount of revenue you were in terms of paying down your bond. So your tax rate will be in half of what it would be to make that same debt service payment. So that's that. Any questions on how that's set up structured wise? I have a tax rate collection of 97%, pretty standard. We take that into consideration that nobody ever collects 100% of their taxes as they're paying it toward the school district. So yeah, that's an interest rate calculation. It's pretty fine there. So. This is scenario 2. This is for the 3.4 million, and that's actually a tax rate decrease. You would only need to set 8.6 for this one. That's lower than what you're currently, comparing it to what this year's tax rate setting could potentially be. We don't know yet, because y'all haven't set it. But last year was 13. I'm saying it's 10.5 coming up this year. It's gonna be around that number when y'all get certified values. I imagine, but potentially lower than that. So doing that, so I would say, even if you wanted to do a tax rate that was the same as this past year, you could get it closer to that $5 million mark, I would imagine, just because of the ones that y'all have been experiencing. So, but same type of structure, like I've mentioned before, is pretty conservative look at it. And at the direction of the board, we'd be willing to show you a lot more different scenarios. I know this is very preliminary. I just want to give you an idea of what's out there, at least for right now. But I'm happy to answer any additional questions that y'all may have about this process, or anything of that nature.
Any questions? All right, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for the time.
I'll see you again, David, okay?
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
See you next time.
All right. Next presentation is by LRG Claims, Mike King. Come on in, Mike.
Did you pull anything up or no?
No, I've got some, would it be all right if I sat down right there?
Yeah.
So I can kind of pass the stuff out and show you.
With what we'll see, I ain't guaranteeing what it.
I'll send that to all you too.
No worries. Oh, folks, I'm Mike King. I am a retired school superintendent. Was actually superintendent almost 10 years down in, last place was Bridge City, which is down southeast Texas, and I was soup in the Kilgore area, West Rusk before that. I'm a partner with LRG Claims. We are a public adjusters firm. We're working with the district right now on an insurance claim that you have. Real quick, so you can understand what a public adjuster is. When you file an insurance claim, the insurance company sends out adjusters that they hire to look at your property to determine how much they owe you. That's pretty standard in an insurance claim. we're licensed and trained in the same way that the insurance adjusters are, but we look at the claim through the eyes of the insured. We don't look at the claim through the eyes of the insurance company. Simply put, we're not trying to save the insurance company money. We're trying to get the claim, we're trying to get the insured indemnified the way that they're supposed to be. So to kind of give you an idea, that's a simple explanation, just as simple explanation as I can give on that. To give you an idea of what we have going here is, I was notified, talked to Dr. Morris about we had some damage on some of your roofs. You had some damage on the elementary roof, which is a membrane roof. You can hear me use that word a lot, the white kind of rubber roof. And then at your high school, that was found by the roofers that were working on your high school gym roof. So he asked me to come out and look. I looked at it and did find damage. And so when you find damage in a situation like that, you're wanting to set the data loss on that claim, because it's important to get a data loss, because that's going to determine which policy that you're going to use, what all of the different parts of the policy come into play, the deductible, any limitations and so forth. So came out, did my research. We have software that helps us determine when hail was on this site. We got the age of the roof. I worked with the roofer that was involved to look at the age of the roofs, and that helps me determine what data loss. So looking at, you've had really two storms, events, if you will, that had large hail. You had one in 2016 that had 1.5 inches hail. You had one in 2018 that had 1 inch and 1.3 inch hail. And those were the large ones. You've had some smaller hail, 1/2 inch. You had a storm in 21 that had 1 inch hail. So based on the age of the roofs and where the damage was, because not all of your roofs have damage. You have, help me here, Chance, you have one section that's kind of further over here that doesn't have damage on it. Your main center section here, that's kind of the flat building, it has damage on it. And then your gym over here did not have damage. So when we looked at the age of the roofs, this roof over to the left was put in 2014. The roof back over the gym was put in 2016, 2017, somewhere in that range. And then this roof back here in the middle that had the damage was put in 2006. So the type of roof that you have becomes susceptible to hail damage after about 7-8 years if it gets the right size hail. So that was a 10-year-old roof in 2016. This roof was only 2 years old, and this roof either wasn't on or had just been put on. So looking at that, knowing that, what happens with this membrane roof, when a hailstone strikes it, the fracture happens at the bottom of the mat. Just think of a piece of rubber. And it happens at the bottom of the mat, and it takes some heating and some cooling to get the fracture to come to the top. Sometimes that takes up to 3 to 5 years. I've just settled some claims, one in Hamlin, one in Cisco, and one in Buena Vista, where they were from. Cisco was from a 15 storm, Hamlin was from a 17 storm, and Buena Vista was from a 19 storm. And that damage didn't manifest itself till probably 2021. So it takes a while sometimes on those roofs to show up. So filed the claim, set the date of loss on May the 29th of 2016. That was the date that the 1.5 inch hail happened. TASB, and this is standard operating procedure, TASB wanted to get an engineer to come out and determine the date of loss. Engineers come out and do what I did. TASB hired them. They do the same thing that I did. They look at hail information. They look at age of roofs. They look at different information that you can get to see when they decided the date of loss was. That happened in February. So the engineers, I was here during that day. We spent the day with them, looked at the elementary. You have the same type of damage on your high school roof. not the new part where you put the gem, the membrane, but the old part of the white roof, if you will. That had the same type of damage that we saw over here. Engineer looked at all of this, and I believe it's February the 6th and February the 10th were the dates of that inspection. Takes usually about a month to 2 months for them to write their report. And so we get the report back, or actually TASB gets the report back. And I believe it was April the 6th or 7th, they contacted Jantz and said, hey, we want to have a conference call and talk about the data loss. We've got the engineer's report back. So we get online. I did not have the engineer's report. I'm fixing to give it to you, and we're going to look at it real quick. Get online with TASB on the conference call, and TASB comes back and says that the data loss, they determined it, they determined, not the engineer, that they determined that based on the information they had, the data loss was 2021. At that time, I didn't have any, I didn't even realize that there'd been a claim filed. Y'all filed a claim in 21. Didn't realize that there'd been a claim filed. So they said that was when it was. So we asked for the engineer's report to share it with the district so that we could look at it. So we did get the engineer's report, and I want to share that with you. And I'd like to kind of go through that with you because it's interesting. Done this for, first thing you're going to get is an email that I sent TASB after going through the engineer's report. There's two, you'll get kind of two things here. Yeah, there's a couple things. And we go. Everybody's got one. Everybody got one. All right, I'm gonna leave one here for the member who's not here today. And so, as you can see, you've got my email, and basically, I'm not gonna read to you, y'all, but
I'll look at this.
no, you need a report there. Go. What's that? So, basically, that I'm good. I know what it says. I took the engineer's report because the engineer came back and he was very unequivocal on, if you'll turn to page in here, it's going to be page 55 in your engineer's report. Highlighted. A lot of highlight. We're not going to go over every bit of it, but I want to really show you the place that he was pretty adamant. Down at the bottom of the page, bottom of page 55, it's going to look like this, got a lot of highlight on it. Basically, the last sentence, for these reasons, Nelson is the engineer. For these reasons, Nelson is of the opinion that the Hale impact of stress to the thermoplastic membranes may be the result of multiple storm events. However, the storm event on May 29th of 2016 is the one to most likely cause the damage to the membranes. So that was the data loss that I had. You look at the email, we talk about that in the email. And I talk about that, and I say in there that I wanted to go over the engineer's report in my email and pull out where not only does he say that, but he supports that. He supports that finding. And so that's some of the area that we wanted to talk about. And the first one, we're going to start with this building here, okay? Because it's something that helped me as I'm looking at it kind of understand. This roof was put on in 2018, okay? Shingle roofs. Y'all have shingle roofs. A lot of you have shingle roofs on your house. They're not as strong as a membrane roof. They're just shingle roofs. They're 3-tab roofs. These are not architectural. They're not any type of a special shingle roof. And you have vent covers up there that are soft metal. One of the things that we're going to look immediately when we get on a roof is at soft metal, because it's going to dent quickly with hail. It doesn't take a lot of hail to dent it, and it helps us determine the size, because that's important. This hailstorm in 2016 was 1.5 inches hail. So you should see fairly large hits on soft metal. Roof was put on in 2018, no damage. Engineer talks about that in here. He actually mentions that and says there's no damage on page, well, this is gonna be one that I gotta find. The rest of them, it's one kind of away from everything else. He talks about the fact that that roof was put on in 2018 and that there is no damage to that roof. There's no, shows no shingle damage, shows nothing to make you think that there's any damage to that roof in any form. That roof is, he has it labeled on his claim as the AEP building is what he called it. I'm guessing y'all do AEP in this conference. They always have that a lot of time. 26. Page 26. Thank you. Yes, there it is. The AEP building, building 2B. And he says this roof was installed in 2018. No discrete circular areas of granular loss. It's going to show up as just a circle. Hail ball hits that. It's just going to knock off. It's going to knock granules off in a circle. None of that is present. Minimal circular indentation were present in light gauge vent caps and covers at this building. Minimal. Okay. So first thing I put together that we talk about, 2018 roof, 2021. So it's not going to be damaged from a 2016 storm. One up here, 2021 storm that's going to fracture rubber, which is, or membrane, thermoplastic membrane, is going to knock off granules on that shingle, and it's also going to dent that soft metal. Doesn't hit, their engineer agrees with that, says that he doesn't find any damage on that. So then you kind of flip through. I'm just going to kind of flip through some of this. Says the same thing there on page 37 about the roof shingles at the concession stand. They're about 7 years old. So they would have been in 2016, they would have been brand new, or maybe even put in after the storm that hit y'all in 2016. I don't really know that, but there's no damage shown on those. So you kind of flip through and you get over to where we were looking there on page, look on page 49. And it shows the different size hail that was here in this. And we have that same information. You can see the different size hails. You can see that May the 29th had 1.5 inches hail. May the 10th and 21 had 1 inch hail. You can look up in 2018, it had 1 1/3 hail. Okay. So those are some of the things. And then they talk about, I'm not going to read everything that I've got highlighted. It's really for y'all, but he talks about that he had the engineer reports from the 2018 claim and the 2021 claim. In 2018, you filed a claim. Sedgwick was the engineer that came out and looked at that. And they talked to Mr. Baca. I'm not sure who Mr. Baca was, but they spoke to him. Okay, they spoke to him and he said that there had been a hail event a few years earlier that had damaged some window screens and vent caps. And they look back at that 2018 engineer's report and they see some photos that support that. They see some photos that shows that they had that at the out at the football field as well, on the football field property. Then over on page 51, they talk about the report from the 21 storm. You look there on the bottom of page 21, the engineer talks, and this is one of the things that I talked to him about in my email, that not only did the engineer kind of not, he put it on the 2016, he discounted the size of the hail in 21. And if you look at the bottom of that page, he talks about that in 21, hail spatter spawn is shown on the roofing materials. Spatters where the hailstone hits it and you can see it knocks the dirt or whatever's on that, and it just looks like spatter. It just kind of cleans it off right there. But there was no hail dent shown on the roof. Your metal roofs, there were no hail dents shown on that. Next page talks about that 21 claim had a RCV. The total on the claim was about $8,717. Okay, didn't meet your deductible. Your deductible in 2018 was $25,000. So it didn't meet the deductible. It said the only damage that was on that was combing out condenser coil fins on your HVACs, repairing a scoreboard, and replacing a chain link fence. I don't know, but I'm guessing if you're replacing a chain link fence, there was some wind involved in that storm. It blew something over. Okay, it blew the scoreboard over. So not repairing hail damage really, except for maybe on the condenser coils, which if you had some wind, it possibly could have had some of that, or that could have been from an older storm as well. He talks about that, talks about that last paragraph there, burnish marks, which is again spatter on the metal, where it kind of shows a little, not a dent, but it shows where something's hit it. And the marks generally appeared to be smaller than 1/2 inch in width. Multiple window screens were photographed. No indentations, tears, or punctures were evident in that screen. So in comparison to the 2018 claim, there were no window screens damaged. There was nothing was damaged really from hail. You had the scoreboard blown over, you had a hurricane fence blown over. So he kind of gives you his analysis, and I talk about it in the email. I don't want to read to y'all this because there's more important stuff, but I've got it noted in the email and it's highlighted in this report where it talks about it. You know, if as you're laying in bed and the sheep's not working and you want to read something that'll put you there, and you can read this. But understand that he basically in this, he talks about the fact that Sedgwick had referred to a previous storm, and the Nelson, Tasby's engineer, says that a previous storm had caused damage. He says that storm is the 2016. Based on all the information he has, that storm is the 2016 storm. Had the largest hail. It says the damage on the last sentence there on 53, the damage to the window screen appear to be generally consistent with the 1.5 inch diameter size hail that CompuWeather estimated was in the 2016 storm. And he talks about that it is the largest hail in the last 10 years, and the larger the hail, the more impact energy. So all that talks about, you can see, go over 55, it talks more. There's some more stuff that it talks about. It talks about the asphalt shingling roofing, which is what you have on here. That's what the shingle roof. They're on page 57. And I've highlighted that. So all of that to be said, his conclusion, again, he says, hail impact distress to the thermal plastic membranes is from the 2016 storm. Could be from others, but it is the one most likely to cause the damage. So he also mentions that it could be the storm indentions on your metal roof could have come from 2016 or could have come from 2018. Nowhere does he mention 2021 as being any type of a storm that caused damage. So that's what the engineer says. So why did Tasby pick 2021? All right, let me show you. It's going to be pretty obvious. Go. As I said at the beginning, that it's important that you have him on these two. it's important to set, that first thing is a email from the TASB, one of the TASB representatives, and I highlight the part where this was at the very beginning, says at this point, the best course of action would be for us to retain a licensed engineer to inspect all potentially impacted diamond damaged property to assist in determining the likely dates of loss. Now, I'm going to draw your attention to the top paragraph too. I don't want to pass that up because I kind of wear that as we wear that as a little bit of a badge of honor. TASB doesn't like us. They don't like public adjusters, okay? Because we argue with them and we are licensed to argue with them. Most insurance companies, we're not their favorite people. And that's okay because our job is we work for the insured. So let's talk about why they went to that. You look, I will tell you that in 2016, I don't have that, I didn't print that, but I'll tell you just based on this first page, you're going to see the second page. What you're going to see, the participation period always runs for these school insurance policies, runs from September 1 to August of 1 year, to August 31st of the next year. So from September 1 of 2015 to August 31st of 2016, that was the policy period that I feel like the storm happened in. At that time, you have a deductible of $10,000. Okay? Your deductible is $10,000. There is no limitation on your membrane roofs. It's an RCV policy, lesson in RCV. RCV stands for replacement cost value. So they owe you to replace the roof, whatever it costs to replace the roof, with like and kind roof. You don't get a higher grade roof. You get the exact same type of roof. They owe you for that. Okay. But so the main thing in 2016 is a $10,000 deductible. Flip over to, let's look at the third page in this. This is the participation period from September 1 of 2020 to August 31st of 21. That's the one that TASB says it happened on. Wind and hurricane and hail deductible of $100,000. A little difference. Now, in fairness to them, y'all were smart in buying that deductible down. You have to pay for it, but you bought that deductible down to $50,000. Okay, so that's a good move on y'all's part. Whoever made that decision at that time, there you go. That was good. But they didn't give that to you for free. You had to pay some money to get that, but you bought that down. So that's the first thing. So your deductible is $50,000. So it's a $40,000 difference between the two. The big one is the next thing I've got highlighted on that. There's a sublimit for wind, hurricane, and hail loss to single ply membrane roofs and accompanying roof system. All other deductibles apply. They have a limit of per claim of $1 million. All they're going to pay. So to put that in perspective, and I'll tell you where we have this claim at, it's at about 1.19, almost 1.2, we're right there. So that means if we, and they're going to argue with us on that number, they always do. I mean, that's just part of it. But it comes down to scope. We've determined the scope. We've agreed on what has to be done. The engineers said what has to be done. Your roof, this roof needs to be torn down to deck and put back with the same materials, or similar materials. You're not going to put the gravel ballast. There's an old gravel ballast roof on that. You can't by law, if you have two roofs on the roof at once, you can't put a third roof. You have to go to the deck and come back up. And so you replace the insulation. You have to bring it to code, R value of what the present code is. The high school, the same thing. At the high school, it's a little different in that you have a metal roof that they did a layover on, and they put OSB. And so there's and then the membrane on top of that. So there's some OSB that has, I don't know if you can see it from the ground, but you can see where you see it looks like there's some shadows on that roof where it looks like it's raised and not smooth. That's because that OSB over time has got wet If you've ever dealt with OSB, you know what happens when it gets wet, it swells. And so it's swollen, and so that's all gonna have to come off. The membrane, the OSB, and then under that OSB is some insulation to support it on that metal roof. All of that has to come off, okay? That's just how, you can't do what and they've agreed with that. We've talked about, we're not going back with OSB, we're gonna go back with a gyp deck or gypsum deck that won't swell and do that. So it's a scope, there's gonna be some arguing on cost, but basically the scope is there. But back to the sublimit. So let's say that TASB agrees with us and says, yes, it's gonna cost $1,190,000 is about where we're at, and some change to replace this roof here and that roof there. Based on this, they only owe you $1 million. Because you have they've set the data loss in 21. And so that now they only owe you $1 million because of that sublimit. So you've got $190,000 plus the $40,000 difference in the deductible. So now you're at almost, 190 and 40. Somebody do the math for me because that's not my strong. So $230,000 hickey, if you will, to that. So can't tell you that's why they set it on that date. That's my theory, because their engineer that they hired said it was on 2016. We had a conference call. Mr. Morris, myself, and Coriel Ruthin, who's involved in this, and the TASB representatives. They continually said in that email, in that Zoom conference, that, they had to make a decision, that there was a claim filed in 2021. And so that was, that was just the date they felt like it happened. They just completely discounted their engineer. Now, I will tell you, I've done this since 2016. I started with this in February of 2016. We have worked, and I've got better at it. I've had some training. I've been doing it for 7 years. My partners are all insurance guys. But in all of our work, we've worked with probably close to 50 districts in this and a number of TASB claims. I will be honest with you. I have never seen two things. Never seen an engineer report be this less ambiguous. They write some of the most ambiguous opinions. They always leave themselves an out. This guy didn't leave much of an out. You can see in the language, he's pretty much said it on that 2016 date. So I've never seen a engineer's report that was as definite, and I've never seen an insurance company go against their own engineer report. They paid for it. It's theirs. It's not ours. You didn't pay for this guy. I didn't pay for this guy. I didn't pick him. They picked him. They brought him out here. He did the work. They are going opposite of it. Completely opposite. Mr. Morris was on the phone call. They continually talked in that about, we got to be fair to our member. I called them on that, and they said, which I felt like that's what they were going to say, they're a pool. TASB's a pool. It's a risk pool. But we have to be fair to all of our members. We have to do, okay. Second thing is they want to give their member the benefit of the doubt. Mr. Morris called them on that and said, hold on. The benefit of the doubt, we've got doubt here. Your engineer, the district's expert, I'm just using that as, I'm not anointing myself, but the district's expert and your expert agree. You disagree, that sounds like doubt. He said in the conversation how hard it is and how difficult it is determining data loss. True?
He did, and my question was, they referred multiple times to data and science and storms and proof. And my question was, can you agree to, you say all this until it doesn't fit your narrative, and then you're just telling us no, you're going to agree with the science until the science doesn't support the numbers. And then it went back to, we've got to give the benefit of the doubt to all of the members of the pool. We're a member of the pool and we need some help too.
So that's where you're at with this claim. Now, let's first, before we go, any questions on the report? Any questions on anything that I've given you, my email, anything, because I'll be glad to answer anything on this. Believe me, my wife laughs at me at times, so I get mad about this. Because it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating because it's one thing, and I told the guy and I know these, understand this, the two gentlemen we were talking to on that Zoom, they're not making that decision. That's coming from above. So you'll understand how TASB works, and they're like a lot of risk pools. A risk pool takes on up to, in TASB, I think it's $500,000. They have about $500,000 of a claim. After it gets above that number, whatever it is, it may be 250, some of them change, but let's say it's 500. After it gets over $500,000, Lloyd's of London has the rest of it. There is no bigger insurance company in the world than Lloyd's of London. They're the original, if you will. So that's who's making the decisions, someone that is communicating with Lloyd's of London. But we talked about that, the fact that this is, this makes no sense. You're going against the engineer. And they continually just said, I mean, it was I said at one time, well, we're in a circular conversation here because they would not even give value to anything that we talked about. They just continually went back and said, based on our information, the discount, shingle roof put on in 2018, no damage. From a storm that happened in 2021 that was strong enough to fracture thermoplastic membrane. Didn't do anything to this. That's enough right there, or the vent caps. That's enough right there for me to go, hold on. Then the idea that, and the engineer talks about this, because the day we got here, it was kind of comical. The engineer didn't want to talk to me at all. We get here that day, absolutely. It was a handshake, hand cards, and then he was done talking to me, which is fine. It's sometimes how they act. We get on the roofs. Normally, in one that's listening, I'll show him, hey, this is where we found damage. This is what we're showing. This is the damage we found, da, da, da. He didn't want to hear any of that. So I'm just standing around the roof, twiddling my thumb, waiting. And he comes over onto the roof that I didn't find damage on. He's on there for about 45 minutes and he's looking and he's hunting and looking, and I'm, if you find damage, great, because we're not claiming that, but we'll add it to the claim if you find damage. He comes over and he says, well, I want to tell you right now, I didn't find any damage on that roof. I said, me either. I said, now, if you want to talk, I can save you some steps and I'll show you where we have damage. So by the end of it, I explained to him why I picked the data loss. A 2-year-old roof, a 1-year-old roof, no damage. When the storm I felt like had a 10-year-old roof, damage. High school, 08, 09. So what? A 8 to 7-year-old roof falls in that time that those roofs become susceptible to embrittlement. He mentions that if you look in this before you fall asleep, if you look in this, he mentions the embrittlement part. He talks about the age of the roofs as how he sets the date. So that's where we're at. Okay. Questions about this?
Question I have is, how do we confront TASB about this?
All right. Good question. And let me, this is what I want, what I think, because I've thought about this, and this stuff you can't, I can tell you and I'm going to talk about it. I have some ideas on that. Not going to be any guarantee that it's going to work. They could just draw the line as deep in the sand as they want. And oftentimes they do. But I can promise you this, if you don't confront them, the one guarantee I can give you, if you don't confirm, they're not changing their mind.
Right.
So what I'm suggesting is this. A board letter, a letter from the board, voicing your displeasure. Mr. Morris, explain this, you say I explained it, however you want to do it. I can help with the language of the letter, requesting that we have another conference, another Zoom conference. And one of the board members sits in on that Zoom conference to ask some questions, just to put that in front. Because TASB is the Texas Association of School Boards. And have them, just some direct questions. Again, let them do it. I don't know, and I'll tell you, best case scenario, they go, you know what? You got us, you're right, we're gonna go back to 2016. Best case scenario. Worst case scenario, they say, nope, we're not doing anything. A second scenario that falls in the middle is we go to 2018. You had inch and a third, 1.3 hail on that. It did cause damage. There was a claim filed. It was only about $1,000, but there was a claim filed. The deductible is $25,000. I don't know. Do you know if there was a buy down on that one? I bet there wasn't. I don't know if they were offering buy downs on. Most people wouldn't buy down a $25,000 deductible, but $25,000 is still less than the 50,000 that it's going to be now. And more important to that, if you look back to the second page in the one I just gave you, there is no sublimit on membrane roofs. There is no sublimit on that. Guys, and lady, I was born at night, as they say, but one last night. There's only one reason or two reasons they picked 2021. Higher deductible, even with the buy down, and a sublimit. So my suggestion is that we get a letter put together from the board that and it's to voice displeasure. It's not to argue in that letter. It's to voice displeasure and to request another conference. However they want to do it, Zoom, or they can come here. I really don't want to wait till your June board meeting, because we need to have a decision on this. And you don't want to call a special meeting. So my suggestion is that we request this to a Zoom conference and let them go back through it, let y'all hear this, whoever the board representative is. You can do it how you want to. If you can have more than one, you can have the whole board, or you can have one, however you want to do it. But let them go through it, ask some pointed questions. Your insurance professional can help you with those questions, can help with the letter, and then see where they go. And then at that time, if we get best case scenario, great. But if they want to stay at 21, then we start talking about the second option, the 2018. I mean, one of the things that you find out when you're working these claims like this, it is, and understand this on a home claim too, it is always a negotiation. It is always a negotiation. You have to go into it with the idea that it's a negotiation. Insurance is going to offer they're going to offer the least amount of money that it will take for you to be happy. That's what they're going to do. And you have to negotiate. It's in every one. And so I've always told folks that especially in a school claim or large complex claim, if you don't have an insurance professional helping you, then you're counting on the guy who's writing the check to pay you everything he owes you. I don't know any industry that happens in. I mean, go down to the Ford dealership and tell them, I'll give you $5,000 for that F-150, and here's the check. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. So that's, to answer your question, I think that's the best case, is let's have another conversation. Let's let the board or some of the board or one of the board members be involved in that conversation and let them explain that to the board, because y'all are ultimately, having sat in that chair 10 years, y'all ultimately the folks that have to answer to the public that you've done everything you can in these type of situations. And the first step I think was good is to bring in a consultant. Because that's what I am, is a consultant. That's what we do. Districts get consultants for financial stuff. Young man that just spoke to you is a consultant. You get academic curriculum consultants. When you have something like this, you need a consultant to help you kind of navigate this and understand what's going. So, questions about any of this? I don't want to.
Sounds like going forward, that's what I think we need to do. Does any of the board have anything to say about it? We can discuss it later, but not tonight, but we can.
We'll draft the letter and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, we'll work on the letter, send it to y'all, get y'all's agreement on that letter. Y'all can decide, that's up to y'all. Basically, for two reasons that I mentioned, I'm gonna push to try to have, I think the letter needs to kind of request a Zoom conference at a date that fits y'all's schedule as soon as possible versus calling a call meeting for just this or waiting until June. That's one of the frustrating things if you think about this. Remember what I told y'all, the engineer came in February, we got the report in April. TASB discounted that engineer's report. They had all the information they needed in February to make this decision. But they waited to get their engineer report in because that's normal. That's how they want to do it is and I told them in the conversation, guys, I'm gonna remember this the next time we have an engineer's report that y'all agree with, believe me, because now suddenly one that it is normally when an engineer report they present to me, it's manna from above. This cannot be argued with unless it's opposite what they want it to say. So
That's.
All right, we'll get a letter. Jansen and I will talk. We'll get a letter pulled together. We'll work on that next day or so. It's not gonna be really, we're not arguing the claim. We're just wanting to have another conversation. We're gonna voice the displeasure in that letter, make sure they understand the board's not happy and has some questions on the decision and so forth. We'll get that put together. Let y'all give it your approval, and then we'll get that out to TASB and see if we can't get something set up. Okay?
Good, mate.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, you bet. Thank y'all. I'm sorry if I was verbal too much, but want to make sure y'all understood what you had, okay?
Thank you, appreciate it.
You bet. Y'all have a good evening.
All right. Sure.
And y'all take care.
Bye, guys. Thank you all.
All right, do we have any public forum? Okay, we'll move into second section, consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as written.
Do I hear a second? Motion made by Joe, and seconded by Brian. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Barbara? Oh.
Her hands up.
I'm moving over there. You can see her, I can't see her because of the chair. All right. 7-4, none opposed. We'll close that. We'll go to reports, elementary voting.
I don't have a lot on there, just a lot of informational stuff. We finally got STAR behind us, so we're kind of in field trip mode. If you notice, we always do our yearly grade level field trips, so you can see all those kind of lined out there. Some award trips we've got coming up to wrap up these last 12 days of school, I guess. 13. How many hours this week? Not counting yet. I didn't really have, most of mine was informational on the PTO Spring Festival. We did really well with that. We had a PTO meeting last night. It looks like we're gonna try to do the fall festival again. I just try to back that from spring to fall. So try to hit that October date again. Coming up when we return.
door between.
Okay, anybody got any questions? No, thank you. Daniel's not here. Have you got Daniel's?
It's in there.
Okay.
There's,
Just gonna use it.
yes.
All right, athletic program.
We're wrapped up now. Golf's over, tennis over, baseball, softball ended this last weekend. Track ended at the the regional meet a week and a half ago. We're rolling into the last 12 or 13 days. I know they're doing basketball and volleyball at the high school on the girls' side. Coach Hughes is taking them out to the football field and trying to implement what he can for the next 10 days until semester test and review start. So that's where we are. They're going to take the first week off in the summer, give the kids a little break before strength and conditioning and individual skills camp starts.
UIL still got state meet, is that right?
Tracy, you want to talk about it?
Sure, yeah, we leave next, Mr. Lemter and I are taking 5 kids next Tuesday. And they will compete on Wednesday. We have a team, our social studies team, actually qualified to go that first place at regionals, so they're gonna be competing. And then Molly Davis is competing in headline writing, so hopefully we can come back with some awesome medals and trophies. It's our goal, so we're real excited to take these 5 kids with us, and they are beyond excited to go. So we appreciate y'all's support and letting us do that.
Oh, okay, I can see you. Okay, all right, you good now? Okay. Repeat, got any news?
The intercom will install at the high school, 90% complete. Online testing got pretty good, but I have to put everything in life. And we asked the camera. It's gonna give you guys some picture of that, so you can share. Kind of show the daytime and nighttime and whatnot. And we're in the process of a move away from the web hosting that we had right now to something better, along with the new notification system, School Messenger. And we got to switch. Pretty much it. So they have question. That's all I have.
Finishing up the doors, right?
Yep. Yeah, there's the gate.
Yes.
We are working on that. There's gonna be meetings. By the end of the last one. The last one.
All right.
The com is 90% so I mean that.
Almost done.
Yeah, 2 weeks. That's what it is.
Finally, a whole year.
Is this part of yours or is it? For the athletic banquet?
Yeah, we got those,
Okay.
Oh,
And we couldn't understand.
I got this number.
For the athletic
Yes.
banquet at the high school.
Going through a lot of trouble.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, and I don't know, yeah. All right. So,
I gotta go with
okay. Okay, thanks.
Have they done?
All right, thank you, Repeat.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, Repeat. Okay, we'll close reports. Action items, this is considered possible action to approve budget amendment.
You understand that? I don't understand, but it's in there, but they look backwards to me.
Is that all this is about?
Hmm.
Is that all this is about?
The next thing, you're talking about the amendment. You want,
Page.
No, I see, understand that. Anybody got any questions on it?
I'll take a rest. What are we amending? What are we amending?
I think it'd be all right.
Basically, we have gotten some excess funds from grants and, there's some places that were over budget, under budget, and it's my job to make sure we stay in compliance. So this is getting those accounts cleaned up.
Make a motion to approve the budget amendment.
second it?
Motion made by Bear, seconded by Sandy. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? That's seven.
T-rays, yes, sir.
Consider possible action to approve Mr. Morris to hire professional positions through August 1st, 2023 without board approval. That's,
This will only affect, this will affect one. Mr. Henderson has a sixth grade math spot open. Other than that, we're fully staffed, so if he gets them in and interviews them and likes them, he'll bring them to us or me and we'll just, if we, I mean, you know, they can walk out of here and go anywhere and say, give me a job and they got it. Other than that, we're good to go. 2 custodians and 1 math teacher.
One of the things I'd like to throw out there, can we get some kind of little form or something where we've checked these people's references and present that, yes, we checked their references and they are eligible for rehire where they were at. I'm just concerned about some of these people that we've already went through some mess with. Might not have been eligible for rehire where they were at.
You're right.
And I'm also I mean, I've been out asking people, talking to people around town, and there's a lot of concern right now about turnover at the school with teachers. And I just think maybe if we had everybody, I mean, I'm not saying this hire assistant teacher, big deal, but when we're hiring these people, I think maybe, I'm not being, not questioning your judgment. I'm just saying if we all run this together, it might make it easier to hire the right one. I know the last time we did this, Joe was the only one that I think that went against it. The rest of us said yay, but I get a lot of feedback from parents telling me, you know, man, why are y'all hiring these people from way out in West Texas? They're getting here, they get homesick, they want to go back. And I know, you know, you made what looked appear to be good hires on these people, but you can't control whether or not they get homesick and want to go home. But
Hey, I'm still here, right?
you're homesick, want to go home too.
I'm homesick for West Texas. I'd go back if my husband would.
I'm just saying it might be easier if we all had our eyes on it together and we all kind of discussed it a little bit. And then Gabe, you recommend who you want to hire. We'll look at it, and more often than not, I'm sure we'll say yay and go on.
okay, do I hear a motion? I'll make a motion that we give that authority to him through August 1st, 2023. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Bear. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 7-4, none opposed. Okay, consider possible action to approve audit engagement letter.
You want that one, Terry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just, Denise, you want to talk about it? Just the thing we do every year for
Yeah, it's just the
approval of the,
details is what he's gonna
Audit.
provide for us and what we have to provide for him. It's just saying, yes, we want to use him again. And we do.
and then, yeah, I'll send you that email, or it's in there, isn't it?
It's in the packet.
It's in the
Yeah.
back. Okay, do I hear a motion?
I make the motion to approve the audit engagement letter as presented.
Okay, motion made by Sandy, seconded by Barbara. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? All 4, none opposed. Let's see. Considering possible action to approve the ag presentation of proposed items for budget.
Well, I appreciate y'all letting me come and visit with you guys for just a few minutes. What I've done is I've prepared 5 things that I'd like as requests. And some of it may be more detailed than need be, but what we're gonna start with, if you want to, we'll start with that. What I'm looking at is, I'm looking at building a trailer that there's some interest in having a cooking team put together, what their interest is. And I'm looking at building a trailer that has never been done before in this respect, in that this is an air ride suspension trailer. The reason why I'm doing this is because I can build a tried and true 16-foot trailer and put stuff on it. I can do that. The thing is, when you go to these shows, you almost gotta be one up on everybody else to be considered for things nowadays. What I'm looking at is taking this air ride suspension trailer and putting this in here, which is a smoker. But before I go any further, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at taking this trailer and making it where it'll support 2 teams. What you're seeing at is that there will be a row of equipment starting here all the way down. And on the other side, there'll be a row of equipment starting here all the way down that matches. The way it'll support 2 teams. The stuff in the middle will be shared by both teams. There'll be like ice coolers. There'll be the odds and ends where they keep their seasonings, where they keep everything. That's what the middle is for. The outside is for us to use. The reason why I won't do it on air ride suspension is because whenever you show up at a show or you show up somewhere, you can lower this thing to the ground. You don't have to step up to it. You don't have to step off of it. It's right there. It's right there. Is it far-fetched? It could be. But you gotta try it every once in a while. If you get time tomorrow. These are the smokers I'm looking at. No, that's right. These are the smokers I'm looking at. Smokers that we'll build in the school, for the class. These things are just some things I was looking at, what we can do to put on there for the team. You know, more of the things that you can build for these trailers, the better off you are. If the kids can build this, that's a plus. But I'm putting these things on there to give you an idea of what I'm looking at and trying to do. A griddle, of course. This is Cowboy Grill. This is just some stuff that I put on there for them that I need to make this thing work. I'm looking at building this trailer not only for the cooking team, but I'm also looking at building it for the use of the school as well. I mean, would you want to smell brisket? Would you want to smell turkey legs on a Friday night coming off this trailer? I think I would. And it's a trailer that's going to be used not only for the FFA, but for Beta Club. It can be used for everybody. That's the reason I'm looking at it. I'm not looking at it as a sole entity that FFA uses it and that's it. It's being built for everybody. That's the way I'm looking at it. There is a cooking team and there's a cooking association for high school kids. I do have a lot of interest in this. These are some of the scheduled days where these shows were being held. When you do this, you got to pay a $200 initiation fee or registration fee. But every time you go to one of these shows, you don't bring your own meat with you or any of that. They provide it, and every one of these shows you go to is $200 because the host school buys all that, and you get your meat and you get all your product from the host school. Then there's timed events. You turn in certain food items at certain time frames. Also, you do have a chance to go down to a national state championship and a national championship as well. What I'm trying to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm trying to expose more things to more kids, is what I'm trying to do. Try to get more kids involved in a lot of different things. That's what I'm trying to do. And if you want to just go over, I have tried to think of everything that I can think of as far as cost. This is everything that I have broken down that I can think of in cost. And you're looking at about $21,000 is what you're looking at. But along with this, what we would do with this trailer is that there's major ag mech shows, we can go show this trailer at also. So we'll have a dual purpose. We show the shows, and then we use it for the cooking team for the rest of the time. Or the school as well. That's one thing that I'm looking at. The other thing that I'm looking at, and it's not on here, well, let's go to this one, go to the next major one. This one? Yes. A greenhouse is what I'm looking at also. It's an 18 by 36 greenhouse. And I'm looking at putting it on the north side of the ag shop with about 75 feet between here and where it's at. So when the ag department does grow and when we have to add another classroom, there's room to do that. Because I've already measured off the classroom, I've measured off the office, and I've measured off the bathroom. You need about 75 feet from here in order to account for that extra classroom that we're going to need. It's an 18 by 36 greenhouse is what it's for. And talking to the gentleman that this is coming from. He said, that's of adequate size for what you're doing. I know Bonham just bought one that's 8 by 24. Leonard is getting a new one put in, which is a little bit bigger than this. So we're following right in the middle of where some of the greenhouses are in the district, is where we're at. Once again, I have tried to include everything that I can think of. This is what it will look like. 18 by 36 will have double doors on the north and south side. That's the inside. I'm putting it on I'd like to put it on a concrete footing. The reason being, it's cost prohibitive. You can put this on a concrete footing and you'll be fine. They actually have them put them on pier and beam also. I mean, on just piers also, but I don't like that because they're leaving the bottom too much open and too much exposed. Cost of electrical, cost of plumbing, cost of irrigation. Tables, if you look at the cost of tables for greenhouses, they're astronomical. Once again, this is something that my kids can do. It's a very simple thing, 2x4s, 4x4s, and treated glass. And you got your tables. Gravel, I just paid $500 for gravel. Greenhouse supplies. This is what they say that they'll do. Shipping's free and so forth. I just gotta have something here that's big enough to unload it all. And that's the breakdown of the cost. And this is all in your packet for you. Okay? That's all that. The other thing, and this is the big one, and then let's do the small one first. If you look on the very first page, right here, look at this. This one, what I'm looking at, and I don't have this up here. What I'm looking at, well, I'll do two, right here.
Adding to?
Yes. What I'm looking at wanting to do is because all my large 50 amp outlets are located on the east wall. I've got 1, 2 on the south wall. I've got one right here, and this for the plasma table. I do not have any 50 amp outlets on this wall. And I'd like to have them there because I'm running into extension cords. I'm having to run extension cords everywhere that I have to pull welders. What I'm looking to do is I'm looking to reconfigure my shop this summer. I'm going to move this out and I'm going to try to create 4 workstations. 2 on this end, 2 on this end. Leave the area here between the 2 doors as an area to build large projects. And leave the center for where we can put tools and so forth. But I'm still running in my head how I want to reconfigure the shop. But what it would help me a lot if I can get 2 50 amp outlets put on that west wall. It'll help me tremendously. Okay, that's that. All right, here's the big one. Now, this is just something that, once again, ladies and gentlemen, being in the landscape business, you gotta be proactive with your customers. You gotta be able to show them some things that you're looking at through your eyes. So that's where the landscape team that they had to look at. They had to do 125 plants.
Shots.
Yeah, there you go.
Which one?
Which one's the latest date?
They're all the same.
They're all the same.
Click on this.
Let's go to, well, okay, here's the cost. I had a guy come out that I went to school with named Roger Skipper. And I said, Roger, what I want to do is I want to take and I want to enclose the 25 by 50 area where we have a trailer parked right now. And he came back and said, this is what it will cost. And what it will do is we got to add a 12-inch drain because where we're moving everything, there's got to be some drainage work done. Also is to install another concrete pad for another covered area as well. And then it's to come in and enclose that whole area that we have and take down a portion of the wall that's there right now. This is just preliminary. This is just something that I just thought, let's just go for it. What do we got? What do we got to lose? And this is what we came up with. I know that number's a little scary, but if my numbers continue to grow, which I know they'll continue to grow, I'm gonna need the money. I've got my biggest class right now is 6th period. I got 16 kids out there at 6th period, third period, excuse me. It's pretty proud with 16 kids during 3rd period. I want to incorporate a lot of this stuff because I think that if we're able to do this, we can get more enrollment in our ag department. We get a whole lot more enrollment in our ag department because there's a misnomer. Some of the kids would submit the rest, well, you got to show something. That's not the case. You don't have to show something. You have to have what's called an SAE, which is a supervised agriculture experience. You do have to have that. It could be anything. It could be the greenhouse. Kids could have plants in there, taking care of plants, taking care of flowers, growing things. That's an SAE. Another thing with the greenhouse is that once again, the greenhouse isn't built strictly for the FFA or for the ag department. It's being built for the whole school. I was thinking about the special needs kids coming out there and having their spot for them to come out and do what they need to do. If there's Beta that wants to come out and put some flowers out there for a plant sale or something, we're able to do that. I'm not looking solely at it just as for ag and for the FFA department. I'm looking at it for the whole school. That's how I function. Is that way. That's the way I function. And I've got a lot of interest from kids that are wanting to come out. I'm trying to convince a lot more students to be out there. But in order for me to make this thing grow, I gotta have some space and I gotta have some more things to get more kids more excited about doing some things. And I've got about 35 kids, but if you take those that are in there 2 or 3 times a day, I'm up to about 51, 52 is where I'm at. I want that to grow. I want that to grow. And that's what I've got. Yes, ma'am.
Well, the one question I have, back to the cooking shows or cooking contest with all the ag shows and all the other shows. I mean, you know, you're going to, you sure you could manage another, you know, another time to do another, take kids to another show or another thing to do, event to do?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Ms. Speaker, I won't know until I try.
Like, it's a lot.
It
you
is a
know?
lot, but y'all hired me to do a job.
Yeah, and we appreciate that.
And I'm doing it, hopefully I'm doing it to the best of my ability.
Mhm.
But if I can get more kids in, that don't mean we have to make every one of those shows. If we make 2 or 3 of them, that will help. And it don't have to be me taking them. It could be, we could get another teacher that would sponsor it, possibly. It don't have to be strictly me. I can have a co-sponsor. That'll help. But that would help tremendously. That would help tremendously.
And academically, where would that, you know, cooking part fit in? I mean, would they
That's-
kind of be in line with the home ec or whatever it's called now?
That's where, being a first year teacher, that's where I plead ignorance because I don't know. Now, I know that there possibly could be some CTEs involved. I'm not quite sure, but there is a possibility. But we'll just have to delve into that more to see. And if there is, then that'd be great. But once again, what I'm trying to do is get more kids exposed to a lot of different things because there may be a kid that doesn't do anything as a teacher. If that individual comes out and says, we have a cooking team, that individual could go on to do bigger and greater things where that we've given him that opportunity or her that opportunity. That's what I'm looking at.
And so, and how is like the welders? I know you had a lot of trouble this year getting things in. I don't know if it was supply and
Supply and demand.
yeah, and the transportation and all that, but do we have enough welders and
We've
or,
got 5.
or do kids have a lot of just waiting for a welder to do something?
We've got 5. And all 5 of them are functional right now. We've got 2 that are semi-old. We got 1 small one that you only use a certain type of wire. We got 2 older ones, and we got 2 brand new. Y'all were fortunate enough to buy one for the school, and then Jeff also donated. What we have done with a lot of the money that y'all were kind enough to grant me with, I had to play catch up.
Wow.
I had to play catch up on a lot of things. And coming from a safety oriented background, being a safety officer, that was my first and foremost thing to look at. Every student now has a welding apron. They have welding sleeves. They have welding gloves. They have dark and clear glasses, and they have their own welding. Thanks to y'all. Before that, it was shared. And the reason why I wanted it done that way was to try to take responsibility to the students that this belongs to you. They have their own assigned areas where everything goes. Everything is numbered accordingly, and the student is assigned a number. If I find stuff laying out in the shop, I'm going to that individual saying, why'd you leave this out? And you'd be surprised at how well this is done. So once again, I'm trying to teach welding, but I'm also trying to teach some life things as well. Is what I'm trying to do.
Well, like the class, you have 16 kids. Would that be a welding class or do you only have 5? And so while 5 kids are welding, what are the other kids doing?
What I'm doing with that group right now, they're freshmen, primarily freshmen. There are about 3 sophomores, somewhere like that, but they're primarily freshmen. And what I have done, there's 16 of them, what I've done is I've taken them, I've broken them down in 4 different groups. And what they're working on right now is they're working on building charcoal grills. And I didn't put them friend and friend and friend together. Just pulled their name out of the hat and said, you're working with them. You'd be surprised how much they just grow about that.
Oh, no, I wouldn't. I thought I'd say.
I told them, I said, the reason why I'm doing this is because when you get out in the real world, you start working with individuals, you gotta learn to compromise. You gotta learn to listen, and you gotta be able to learn to adapt. And you'd be surprised at how much non-compromising I'm hearing right now. But it is slowly turning around. They're actually starting to work together. And that was the sole thing. I don't care if that smoker looks like it got pulled out of the junk pile yesterday. Okay, no, I'm just being honest with you. As long as they're learning to work together as a group and they're compromising,
Yeah.
that's my sole point. Is that.
Very good.
I hope y'all consider these things. Like I said, y'all hired me to do a job. Can I do more? I probably can, but there is gonna be a point, and when I get to the point, I'll let you know. How does that sound? Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gower. I will say this, I know that we can't do anything right now, but as soon as we start working on the budgets, that's where it'll come in at, and I really and truly, I see some glimmer in some eyes already. There were some good ideas good thought put into these ideas.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks for being detailed.
Yeah.
20 years in landscape business, if you're not detail oriented, I'm spinning my wheels and I'm spinning.
Okay, superintendent's report. I'll make a motion that we table this item until budget. Budget workshops. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Sandy. All those in favor? Barbara, did you get that one? Okay. I don't know where fire went. Yeah. All right. We will move on to superintendent's report.
The 3M film in the windows, that was the bulletproof and shatterproof people that we are working with, finally got the quote back. I talked to him yesterday, and $60-ish thousand, and that's for the 2-minute barrier, where you can bust and throw rocks and shoot or whatever at the window or doors for 2 minutes before you gain entrance. They're coming back out, gonna measure again, and we're gonna look at the 4 and the 8-minute barriers as well. Gower just talked about the ag. Beta information, I put it in your folder there, and I sent everybody the email about it. The request was there's 17 kids that have qualified, 8 of them have committed, 9 of them have not committed for financial reasons. There is a breakdown in your packet of how much it costs, and the question was, how have we done this in the past? My answer was, well, I don't know, because this will be my first experience with it. I know we don't want to have one person driving a bus the entire way to Louisville, Kentucky this summer. So vans, charter buses were brought up. There were multiple things brought up.
Can we, Barbara? You were the one that brought this up. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I sent them an email about a fundraiser that they did in Whitesboro, just asking all kids to give the names of people that they could email and see if they could just donate. I know other schools are doing the same thing. I think they did it in Whitesboro. I mean, it's worth trying. Did you get that email?
Yeah, ma'am. So we're gonna try that, and then there's gonna be a talent show as well. So those are the things set up right now. Once we get the numbers back from that, hopefully the number on y'all's sheet is, we'd like it to be a 0, but if not, we'll update soon.
Jerry, in the past, I want to say that we paid on the trip.
I was thinking that,
Can I step in?
That was fundraiser.
I'm kind of the one that brought this up,
Yes.
Barbara. I was gonna say it in the forum, but I thought it was taken care of. So, I mean, I hate to interrupt. This is kind of my thing that I brought to Barbara. We had 17 kids qualified to go to nationals. They went down, represented Savoy at state.
Yeah.
Qualified to go to nationals. And out of the 17, we had less than 5 that'll actually go. There's a financial reason. And I went and talked to Ms. Cutler, I talked to her parents, trying to find out what we could do to help these kids down there because they deserve to go. They've earned it. They're wanting to go down and represent Savoy. Proud. That's what I thought when I was on the board that we were here to do. Support these kids academically, athletically. I know when the football team goes to state, we support them. Baseball team goes to state, support them. Basketball, track, whatever it is, we support them. Why are we not reaching, helping these kids with they? Last year, I know we paid for their trip. We elected to send them down there and fly them down there. I'm not asking to fly them down there, it's a big cost. But I think we can get them down there, whether it's on a bus, on a van, whether it's a charter bus, whatever. We need to pay for these 17 kids. When I was in Beta, we just went to go and they expected us to pay for it. That's fine, I'm all for that. These 17 kids earned the spot down there. If they're gonna work their butts off for it, and wanna go down there and represent us and they've earned it, I think we should support them. And the number that I've heard is roughly $500 a kid. You're talking $8,500. I think that's what the rainy day fund that Brian used to have in the caps, we used to go to. And I think the board needs to try to find out where we can do it. If we can buy a bus, we can send them down a bus.
Yeah.
We can find that $8,500 to get down there and I challenge.
And I've got it broken down right here, $60 per student, and thank you, $60 per student, just Beta convention fees. We've got the hotel breakdown, $241 a night, 3 rooms with 2 to 3 kids per room. And then for the adults, of course, and then the food estimates here, 5 days times $35 a day is $175 estimate per student for meals. So the list I have is 8 students going and 9 staying at home, you know, if the decision was made today due to funds.
I just wanted to say, we did pay for Beta to go to state. I mean, so Jeff was using that athletic. If we went to state, we would pay for that. But we did pay for the kids to go to Beta State too. Again, national is something different. I thought they always did raise the majority of the funds. And I know when my girls were in it, yeah, we paid for part of it, but they were at the concession stand, they did all that. And they don't want to do that anymore, you know? And so I hate that. Well, I think they did earn it and I'm not opposed to paying for it, but I really think they need to earn some of the money themselves too. And they need to just start earlier. You know, I mean, Miss Cooper and Miss Beck that used to do it with my girls, you know, you just started and you know, and the parents knew, unless you want to pay $3,000 for my girls went to Disney World and what you call it. And I know we paid some of it out every month.
I was thinking back a few years ago, we actually paid for we sent them by air somewhere. Did we?
Last year, wasn't it?
Florida.
Not last year.
Yeah.
Last year wasn't last year.
No,
Oh,
it's
year before you came. Okay.
No, last year was Nashville, you're from Florida.
But we did fly them, right?
Here's the other thing.
Florida, last year we had the van and we drove on the hotel, there was food provided from us.
The other thing you need to keep in mind is this year we had the Beta choir qualify. That's 14 kids. To go down to nationals or to go to Kentucky and compete at nationals, a minimum of 12 have to go. So if only 8 are going, you're paying for them to go and they're not going to get to compete. They don't have enough money to keep that.
And the state, the parents paid for
Yeah.
the nationals.
When I was in school and Jeff was in school, we had to work the concession stand at every basketball game, football game for Beta Club. I don't guess they do that anymore.
That was the
That's what
mistake.
Sandy
What you
was
gotta keep in mind is they just found out they're going to nationals 2 weeks ago, so they got roughly a 40-day window to try to raise $8,500.
I just say we ask for donations. Or we pay for it ourselves. I'm kind of with you up on this.
I'm paying for one no matter what. My kid got nominated for show choir for premier performer, so I don't care if it's 500 or God bless it, please don't be 5,000, but that kid's going to Kentucky.
I say this year we chalk it up. And we come up with a plan for next year. Yeah, I said this year, I say we just chalk it up, and pay for it, but then come up with some kind of plan for next year. I mean, $8,500 in the scheme of things is not that much money.
That I suggested seems pretty easy. I don't know what that thought we were getting paid. Already took the land, but you never know, someone in the community may donate a large amount.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I think we should consider it. I wouldn't even consider not going to the board.
What, have you looked at the budget, Jance? Do you
Yeah, yeah.
recommend us doing it? And we can move money someplace from something else?
I'm with Jeff on that, yes. I think we should, and Brian, do it. Get it taken care of, and we'll come up with a plan, whether it is working concession or, you know, starting the email chain early in August next year, or whatever it is. But a kid knows I've got to have by May or June, $2,000, whatever it is. So you have basically a whole year and you budget for it. You know, a child budgets for it, or parents do. I got to raise $30 this month or this week or whatever.
I think we paid ours out, and if something happened, you didn't get to go before they made plane reservations or whatever, you got your money back. You know, if something happened.
Well, and the thing-
Somebody kept count of that, you know, kept it and
Okay.
donated it by mine.
I think, let's put that, if we have to have a special meeting, just let me know. We can do that so we can vote on that, but get the price, get the cost of it. And
I'll send it, I'll total it up tonight, give an exact number and send it out.
And then because we can't vote on that, but we didn't need to vote on. Is that all right with everybody?
I quit paying the money.
Well,
Carrie was talking about.
I think that's something that we need to research right quick to find out, like get a bus price and.
They wanted vans. Their request was not plane and not driving a school bus.
What about a charter bus?
Yeah, something like that, or vans or something.
Yeah, did you hear that, Barbara?
What, man, I'm losing my mind. I was fixing to say something.
Yeah, yeah.
The last van I rented for a trip was roughly $1,500 for a week trip. We took it to New Mexico and back. So.
Their main problem with taking the school bus is they don't have one designated driver that would have to do all the travel.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
No.
I wouldn't do that.
So I think that we need to look at that right quick, and if we have to, we'll get back together right quick. Is that all right with everybody? Okay. All right, Jance, go ahead. Is that okay, Barbara?
Oh, yeah, I've got it.
Barbara?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Can I see that, Sandy, real quick?
What now?
Just to see what's next on the list. I don't.
Because all of them want to go.
Yeah, I'm sure of that.
Yeah, I'm asking Ms. Cutler, I was 17, if finances were not a problem, how many they would have to go? And she said she knows 14, maybe 15.
Okay.
Next there is buses. I talked to John Rubin Coing today from Rush Enterprises, and the lady we got it from, they're doing their final inspections now, so I would expect it to be ready really tomorrow or Thursday for delivery or pickup. Construction, Repeat talked about that with the doors and the lights. The reason we did the lights and the cameras out here is because the bus did get vandalized. We got the insurance check for it, but now it's lit up better back there, and we have cameras back there. So I think he showed at 3 o'clock in the morning, a cat walked by and it's lit up like it is in the daytime. So we're good on that. EOP and safety audits, that's our emergency operation plans and safety audits. You know, Region 10 came out and got this, or the elementary school and the high school got an email yesterday or a call. Now they have to do all, this is new, they have to do all non-instructional facilities. So they've got to come back out, hit the football field, the field house, baseball, softball field, the ag shop, the ag barn, the maintenance shop. So anything that, you know, we're not teaching in, they're going to come back out and do that. I do not know when yet. I anticipate soon. Extracurriculars, we talked beta, we talked ag, we talked UIL, we talked, we're wrapping it up, guys. We had our last banquet, I think was tonight. So we've had ag, UIL, beta, athletic, academic. We're down to really 2 weeks left, right? Dan? 2 weeks, and then some semester test review days. Our open positions, we had one come up last week. I think we're gonna have our sped filled. We have 6th grade math that will be open in a custodian position. Region 10 Teacher of the Year, Miss Sweet so she's gonna go down to that this summer for being selected. And Miss Martin from the high school will go down. They have a big ceremony for the teachers that Region 10 puts on. If you win that Region 10 Teacher of the Year, then you're put into the state with all, the 20 ESCs for Texas Teacher of the Year, which is the highest honor that the service center can give a teacher. That's a huge deal to get it. I mean, for the school, for the region, for any of it, it's a neat deal to be honored. And then Mike talked about the roof at length, so I won't say anything else about the roof.
But we had some questions for that.
Okay.
No, I'm teasing, Those engineers.
So that's all for me.
All right. With that, I make a motion that we go into executive session at 9:06. That's at the government code 551.074. All right.
My child's bigger over here.
Motion made by me, seconded by Barbara. Everybody said yes, right? All right, I make a motion at 9:57. We come back out of executive session. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Mike. All those in favor? All for, none opposed? I guess that's Barbara. I thought I said something.
She's waving, I think.
Okay, motion's coming out of executive session.
I make the motion to offer Stacy Tandy a 10-month probationary certified teaching contract for the 23-24 school year.
Do I hear a second? Okay, well, you already got a beat, Barbara. Motion made by Sandy, seconded by Mike to hire Stacy Tandy for 10-month probationary contract, 23-24 school year. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? Got 7-4, none opposed. Any other motions?
Make a motion to offer Tyler Lindsay an 11-month dual assignment probationary certified teaching contract for the 23-24 school year.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made by Bear, seconded by Sandy to offer Tyler Lindsay 11-month dual contract, probationary contract for 23-24. All those in favor? All for, none opposed. Next motion.
I make the motion to offer Samuel Talley a 12-month probationary certified administrator contract for the 23-24 school year.
Second it.
Motion made by Brian and seconded by Sandy to offer Samuel Talley a probationary administrator contract for 23-24. All those in favor? All for, none opposed. Okay, that takes care of that. The next part's gonna get a little, probably for a lot of people, it'll probably be a little bit boring because it's kind of a training. We're gonna be going over Robert's Rules of Order and the board, just the stuff that we go for the board for new members. So it's a board operating procedure. Technically.
It's in there, I think. Joe, wasn't it in that gray one? Mine was. Yeah,
In the very
in the
back?
flaps.
Oh, that's exactly what it said. Okay.
All right, like I said, we're going to try to adhere to the Robert's Rules of Order. If I get some of these wrong, folks, don't be afraid, just call me on it and let me know. Okay? I want everybody to have a say, but I think we need to just make them in a little bit quicker fashion. Okay? As you can tell on the Robert's Rules of Orders, there's a cheat sheet here. You can keep it with you. The second one, the second group, I think they're pretty much a lot of the same. So you can kind of compare them. They did come from different places. I can't remember. I think the second one actually came out of TASB stuff. The first one was more, it's just a cheat sheet for Robert's Rules of Order. So, you have a main motion, a subsidiary motion, privileged motion, incidental motion, motion to table, motion to postpone. And it says that every motion has 6 steps. Okay, motion, second, restate the motion, debate, vote, and announce the vote. Sometimes I don't necessarily, I guess I announce the vote when I tell them over there that it passed by such and such vote. But anyway, does anybody have any questions on all this? Y'all read through it. I don't know if necessarily we need to go through all of this. If y'all, you know, like I said, I really think that we need a kind of almost a workshop type deal to be able to go over this and then find out, like, you know, like if you jump over to Board of Trustees relationships and then orienting, if you want to switch to the Manila and go to this one. Really, you know, I appreciate y'all running. I appreciate, like, from the look of this board, I see a board that I think that can come together and be very proactive together and do the good things for the school that we need to do. I guess for the new mid-board members, do y'all need a state of the union for the district? Or did y'all run knowing what was going on? Pretty much.
I want to make this comment, and I hope that it doesn't bother anybody or anything like that, but from being a board member 2 terms before, and the things that you guys dealt with over the last 1.5, 2 years since I've been off the board with finding Jance, the things that the community knows about, the things that insight I get as having kids there and a spouse there, I'm over the moon excited about next year. There's no overlap. We got a man that's going to be able to come in and be principal and get busy and get to work. I'm just fired up about it. So, you know, year after year after year, whenever we'd hire football coaches and offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators and special team coordinators, and I'd say, what about our football or basketball coach? Well, we got to have these football guys. It was very, very frustrating to me with a kid that is a basketball boy to never really be acknowledged. So I'm over the moon excited about the opportunities before us right now. And thank you guys that have been sitting on this board, because I know you guys have been battling. So, and you're right. I put that packet in and I thought, boy, what did you do? Why did you do that? But here we are, and I'm excited to fight with y'all.
Well, you know, And in reading some of this stuff, I've been on here a long time, and you kind of tend to sometimes forget what we really need to be looking at a lot of times. I think, we're the communication really through the district. People are supposed to come to us. And I don't shun them. I'll listen to them to a point, except if it's going to be something that we're gonna have to make a judgment on. And that's when I have to tell them right off the bat, okay, hold up just a minute, you need to go through the chain of command. And here's the chain of command. Because if you don't, I've stressed this, and I've had to do this before. Pull yourself out. You have to put yourself aside and say, I can't vote on that because I've already got one side of this and I haven't got both sides. I try to always make sure that when I hear the details of something like that, I want all of y'all to be right here with me, where we're hearing the same thing at the same time. Okay?
Well, I guess my thing is that people, of course, they tell Jance the good stuff. They don't tell him the bad stuff. And then they want to get my ear and tell me something that's wrong. And it's not something, it's overall kind of or something, just like I got a text today, said they couldn't come to the board meeting, and so they wanted to know about this beta trip, So I just decided just to send it.
Oh, I
to
don't
him,
think that was bad at all.
Oh, it's not bad, but I'm just saying, but like, there's a complaint about a teacher can't write on the board and spell words correctly. My kids are okay. They're smart and they don't know, but other kids are gonna have a problem with that. And why did we hire her? Well, again, I'm not the hiring person, and and so I definitely told, more than one person came to me, and I told every one of them, you should go to her first and then go to the principal and work up the chain. But I just don't understand why they just want to gossip to me about it, but they don't want to take that extra step. And they'd rather leave and go take their kids someplace else.
I don't know, because I've never turned a deaf ear on anybody, but I very seldom ever get them in. And I don't know if it's because I have told some of them, look, if you're going to talk about this, you need to go through the chain of command, because it was something that possibly could have come up. And if they wanted to take it to a tier 3, it would have been us. And I told them, I said, look, if it gets there, I can't. If I hear this now, I will take myself out of the discussion. I will just remove myself from that boardroom. I said, as a matter of fact, I will get up, I will actually leave the boardroom. Because I don't want my expressions reflecting to y'all. And that's just one of those things.
But I just want you to know, when I tell you something, I'm not griping about it. I'm just relaying information that they came to me, and I just want to.
Oh, no, thanks for that. And tell them, what you're saying, go to the source and then the principal and then me.
Right.
And I've had a couple, in the past 2 weeks, 3-4 parents up here visiting. We're going to solve the problem. We're here to help you. And I think they've been really positive. So if they do it, and we can address the problem, we can solve the problem.
There's this, it's board operation. And that's kind of the stuff that we get up there today. It says all affected boards have something in common, a clear vision and defined priorities as a district. And I thought we really went over a lot of that stuff up there, and she explained it. Maybe it's about as well as I've heard it explained. It says the understanding of what their work entails, a formalized approach to their work through defined procedures, free flow of information within the community. And, TASB developed this, what they call effective practices. And it says planning and governance, oversight of management, team operations, advocacy, focused and productive board discussion, and introduction to parliamentary procedures. And that's some of the things. Mike, you've been in the school business. You was in it. Stuff that comes out of executive session, other than the motions that come out, what's said in executive session stays here. Quote from John Gaddy, president for a long time, board member here for a long time. I know you probably know John. Anyway, and they always preach that we come out of here when the vote is made, no matter what the vote is. We say it was a board vote. If it was a 4-3 vote, the board said it. They voted on it and it become, that's it. I mean, from then on, we all abide by it. You know, I don't know how else better to say it. You know, we just got to make sure of what we're saying. And, you know, when we're discussing stuff, etiquette, and I don't interrupt each other. That's one thing I'm not going to allow. Just let them get their say in and let's get it over with. Get your part in. You'll get a chance to rebuttal. You know, we're not going to keep on going over and over the same thing and then jump off on rabbits to go. We need to get out of here. So I think as far as we need when we get our stuff for this year, maybe we ought to take a little bit more time for each and all of us go to the same class and look for some of the stuff like our board, bringing our board together, where we all can be in the same class. I know we like to split up and go to different things, and we can still do that, but I think there's some of it that we need to go to. But if y'all have questions, you can hit me up. Mike, I don't know, I got your phone number.
I got yours.
Oh, good. You can send me a text.
You'll need it.
So, but really, you know, Barbara said she lost connections.
Oh, God, I forgot. She's looking off back for the last
But anyway,
30 minutes.
I'm not gonna keep us here going over the rock. Y'all can read some of this stuff. If y'all, and you can ask me, but the best thing, if we can come up and when we have, what's her name? We can get her back up here and meet with us like she's supposed to. Write your questions down. Let's ask her. Y'all will enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoyed her. I really liked her class. I did. I thought it helped me a lot.
Let me tell you, I really enjoyed her.
So, you know, I don't want to sit here and hash over this stuff for hours on end because we don't need to be. We've already been up here long enough. We had a long board now.
Could I just request something?
Yes.
I know there has to be emergency meetings and there has to be some changes, but even though I'm retired, I have lots of things going on and I appreciate knowing. And I'd rather we could keep our main meeting the second Monday of the month and keep it there and not change it unless we just absolutely have to.
Okay.
It's just a question request.
This is, I know this probably, I know it upset some people and I'm sorry, but this was something that I learned. Board deal that if you've got things coming out for votes. If you can get your board on there, get the new board members on there, they're gonna be voting on what they're gonna deal with during their term. And not let somebody that's not gonna be on there. And that's the reason I did it. We've done it before. We don't do it every year because not every year we have issues come up. And that's the reason I did it. We've done it ever since I've been on the board. That was just one of the deals that we did. So. Anyway, anybody have any questions?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
You can.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Joe. All those in favor? It is 10:16.